no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me, no turning back, no turning back. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. 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 Church life has been really busy over the last few months planning events for our church family and for our surrounding community. So in the next few weeks and months, you're going to see various events listed, and I really want to encourage you to invite your neighbors, family, friends. These events are not only meant for the church community here within these walls, but outside of these walls. And so I really want to encourage you that when you see an event, to do that, to go to a neighbor, to go to a friend, go to a coworker, and invite them to these events. And I can't believe that I'm actually saying this, but we're starting off with Hockey Night in Compass. So, woohoo! How many hockey fans? Yay! How many Toronto Maple Leaf fans? Oh, Pastor Peter didn't put his hand up. Yeah. Anyway, so we're excited about that. We're going to do Hockey Night, the Toronto Maple Leafs opener night, and on the big screen. So again, invite your coworkers, your friends for just a wonderful time together here, and who knows what the Lord will do in the hearts of the people that we invite. The second thing that we're doing this month is we're starting a craft night. The second Thursday of every month throughout the winter, we're going to have a different craft or an event. And we're starting off with something called diamond art painting. And I know that might be a mystery to some of you, but go to the Church Life Center after church and see what it is. And you can sign up for that. It's $10. We're trying to keep these events at a very minimal cost. And just have a look at what that is. Men, women, children, everybody can do this craft. So look for that. And then in the next few months, we've got a book fold planned, a flower arranging class planned in December. So watch for those. Also, our popular Soup Sunday is back. So the fourth Sunday of every month from now until April, there will be soup after church, and you're welcome to join us for that. So, and then I know this isn't in the future, but just keep this on your calendar of events. We're going to have a Christmas market here on Saturday, November 25, and we're looking for people that can sell some of the crafts that they make. So if you do that, you can be a vendor here. I'll look for the details on the Compass Connect or talk to one of the Church Life members. And then again, we're inviting our community to come through our doors in a very non-invasive kind of way. So we're hoping that that will be a success as well. And something that we're really, really excited about is on Sunday, December 3, the gospel group, the Chapelaires, are coming to Compass. And you'll love them. They're a great group of people. You can check out their Facebook and have a look at what they sing. But they're just an amazing group, and we're really excited that they are coming to do Christmas in the country at Compass on December 3rd. So keep these dates in mind. Just keep watching Compass Connect for these events, and we hope that you will reach out to those around you to invite them. Thank you.
Familiar words of Jesus that are included in his well-known Sermon on the Mount, recorded in the book of Matthew, chapter 6. Words that invite us to consider what it means to know our truest treasure and to be a steward of that treasure. Let's hear these words recorded in Matthew 6, verses 19 through 24. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is God's word. We continue to reflect on mission, the mission of God in the world that He invites us to participate in. The mission of the kingdom of God, which continues to break into all of the dark and hard places of this world. We've been thinking about mission for some weeks. This series is winding down. But at some point, when we think about the mission of God and our participation in that, we need to talk about money. Because money, as these words of Jesus remind us, is so central to the mission of God. Money is, like everything in creation, something that belongs to God. It's not ours. It's our treasure, but it's situated in a life that is fully aligned with the kingdom of God. So I'm going to be spending some time this week and next week reflecting on the power of money. Now, when we think about the power of money, we often think about money as power. All of the purchasing power that money has to purchase things. And there's certainly a truth in that. We see evidence of that everywhere. Money has power. But this morning we're going to think about money more fundamentally, not only as something that has power, but is power. Money is power. Now, the words that you heard from Matthew 6 in the translation we had before us today, that concluding verse talk about how you cannot serve God and money. Many of you will know an older translation retains the original word there. It's an Aramaic word, the language that Jesus spoke, mammon. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Now that is a very significant word, mammon, because it again accentuates the fact that money is not just something that has power, but is power. I've always appreciated the insights of Richard Foster, who in his book, The Challenge of the Disciplined Life, talks about mammon in this way. When Jesus uses the Aramaic term mammon to refer to wealth, he is giving it a personal and spiritual character. When he says that you cannot serve God and mammon, he is personifying mammon as a rival god. In saying this, Jesus is making it unmistakably clear that money is not just some impersonal medium of exchange. Money is not something that is morally neutral, a resource to be used in good or bad ways, depending solely upon our attitude toward it. Mammon is a power that seeks to dominate us. It's a very important point. A rival god. He goes on to say this, for Christ, money is an idolatry we must be converted from in order to be converted to Him. The rejection of the god mammon is a necessary preconditioning to being a disciple of Jesus Christ. And in point of fact, money has many of the characteristics of deity. I don't know if you ever noticed this, but on coins and paper bills, you often see references to the power of mammon. In God we trust, on the American currency at least. And here in Canada, there's reference to kings and queens who, by the grace of God, are in their positions of power. Just an obvious indication of how money The currency that we all have and use on a regular basis has qualities and characteristics of power. Money gives us security. It can induce guilt. It gives us freedom, gives us power. Money is omnipresent. These are all characteristics of money that elevate it to a power, a rival God. He concludes, most sinister of all is the bid of mammon for omnipotence. It is one of the principalities and powers that must be conquered and redeemed through the blood of Christ before it can be usable for the greater good of the kingdom of God. Now, this does not mean that money is evil. It's one of the most misunderstood, misquoted verses in the Bible. Money is the root of all evil. That's not what the verse says. It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. Money in itself is something that can be used for redemptive purposes, and I'll get into that more next week. But there is great spiritual danger when we have money in our possession. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to have a lot of money for that to be a dangerous thing. In fact, both those who are wealthy and poor feel the power of money. You either want it, if you don't have any or much of it, or you want more of it, even if you have a great deal of it. Money is power. Money is a God that beckons for our allegiance. It's no wonder that Jesus talked about money as much as he did. It's often misunderstood, underappreciated. Randy Alcorn, who has written some good books on the subject of stewardship, did a careful study of how often money and possessions are recorded in the Gospels, in the words that Jesus spoke. And he found it astounding, as I'm sure anybody would, that a full 15% of the recorded words of Jesus are on this subject, 15%. It led Randy Alcorn to wonder, why does Jesus say more about how we are to view and handle money and possessions than any other subject, any other one? And his answer is because the issue of money and possessions lies at the heart of the Christian life. It's exactly as Richard Foster puts it. In order to become a disciple of Jesus, you need to relinquish allegiances to other things, and mammon, that's a hard one to give up. Its power is pervasive. Now, when we talk about money as Christians, this is the only proper way to begin, with the acknowledgement that money not only has power, but money is power. It is mammon, a rival god, an idol. Which means that the best, clearest, and simplest way for us to determine how much money means to us is to examine how we use it. And again, I'll say more about that next week. But it's important to introduce that thought already this morning. It's important to acknowledge that if God really is God in our life, if God is our highest treasure, then our money will naturally flow to the things of God. Your money flows according to your values, your priorities, where your heart is, as Jesus puts it. That's your treasure. Money flows to your priorities. If God is first and if God is primary, that's where your heart is. And that's where your use of money goes. Not exclusively, but fundamentally and primarily. And it's equally true. If mammon is the god in your life, then the way you spend your money will reflect that. Billy Graham used to say, your checkbook is a theological statement. It's a throwback to an earlier time when you would get your monthly statement mailed to you from the bank, and you would take out your checkbook and you would have to make sure that everything is balanced. And we don't use checkbooks, or most people don't anymore. It's all digital now. You can see it on the screen, and all the work is done for you there. The addition, the subtracting, your balance is right there. But the point remains the same. When you see a summary of your spending in any given week or month or year, you see a theological statement. As Billy Graham says, that your checkbook, or any other way we see it digitally in the world today, tells you who and what you worship. I remember some years ago when my credit card company sent out what they said was a renewed and fresh monthly statement. It was easier to navigate your way there. You could see more clearly all of the charges to your account. It had a very user-friendly look and feel to it. And they sent a sample just to show what the upcoming, fresh, new statement would look like. And in fact, this sample was the monthly statement for someone called John Sample. John Sample. I still have a copy of that. It was interesting to see John Sample's spending habits in a 10-day period. Cell phone, restaurant, bar and grill, resort stay, coffee shop, restaurant, grocery store, utility, bar and grill, coffee shop, restaurant, bar and grill. Somebody ought to teach Johnny how to cook. I mean, doesn't that strike you as odd? That his entire statement, at least in this 10-day frame, is all money spent on some of the things he needs, of course, but only that. Not only things he needs, but things that he wants, things that perhaps have a lot more to do with mammon than anything else. What does your statement say? Take a look at it with this view in mind. Where are your priorities? What is yours and what is God's? I remember when I was a pastor in Midland Park, there was a man that I never met who was a member of the church. He never attended worship because he was socially incredibly shy. He just couldn't be with people. He was someone who lived and worked alone. I only saw him once as kind of this shadowy figure early one Friday morning when I happened to be at church. He was leaving. Every Friday morning, he came to church and he slid an envelope under the door for the church office. I would see it there sometimes. On the outside of the envelope, there was one word: God's. There was cash in it. It was his way of making the worship of God his true treasure. I don't know how much he gave or how much of his income that represented, but there it was, somebody who deliberately, intentionally set apart money every week as God's. Now, the interesting thing about that, of course, is that every bit of our money is God's. We need to be careful about that. God's money is not just that money that we give to church or other kingdom causes or any other charitable cause. Every bit of our money is God's. But when we acknowledge that, we're poised to release it back to God. And again, more on that next week. We're poised and prepared to have our giving acknowledge that everything is already God's. He's given it to us. And in our giving of that back to Him, we're celebrating the power of His grace and goodness in our lives. We need to be careful here as well when we think about John Sample and his spending habits, because it's very easy to criticize spenders, isn't it? We think they're the ones who can't handle their money. They've got money problems all the time. And why? Well, because they can't live within their means. They buy stuff they don't need. On and on it goes. It's very obvious sometimes, which is why it's so easy to criticize the spenders. But let me tell you that the power of mammon is not only evident in the spenders. It is. But it is equally power applied in the lives of savers. Spending and saving. You see, this is where the idolatry, the power of mammon as a rival god comes in. What does money want to provide? Status and security. Basically those two things. Spenders are all about status. They think their identity, who they are as people, is wrapped up in the stuff they own, the things they buy, how they look. But the savers, they may think they're a lot different, but not really, because their spending habits are all about not status so much, but security. Knowing that you are well cared for, no matter what storm or unexpected event may happen, you are there, you are safe, you will be strong. Now, this is very interesting that we're very quick to criticize spenders and not so quick to criticize the savers. I remember reading in one of Tim Keller's books, he shared a story about how a married couple in his church in New York City came for counseling because they were having huge problems in their marriage, and which is not uncommon. The problem fundamentally had to do with money. Different views of how money ought to be used. She was a spender, he was a saver. And they just couldn't agree on how money ought to be used in their marriage. She loved spending money, he loved saving money. For her, status was a rival god. In fact, her husband complained in that counseling session. She is so selfish. She spends so much on clothes, on her appearance, all these frivolous things. The pastor who counseled them said, okay, let's dig a little deeper. Do you see how by not spending money, or by not giving any of it away, by socking away every penny, you are being just as selfish? You're spending absolutely everything on your need to feel secure, protected, and in control. You see how mammon as a rival god will get you coming and going? Either as a spender and your status, or a saver and your security. The man had never thought about that. He realized that he was as unwise in his use of money as his wife was. And they were able to work through that. It enables us to see how mammon is an idol in those two ways, spending and saving. Either way, money enslaves somebody. I remember reading about one of the former hostages in Iran. You remember that crisis in the late 70s? The American hostages who were liberated largely because of the role that Canada played in all of that. One of the liberated hostages is a Christian man, and after he was liberated, he would often speak at church groups, conventions, that kind of a thing. And no matter where he was or no matter who he was speaking to, he always began his address exactly the same. My fellow hostages. Isn't that interesting? My fellow hostages. We might not see ourselves that way. You can be very successful, frugal, prosperous, responsible, or reckless, irresponsible, have chronic financial problems. You're equally lost because the power of mammon has become a rival god in your life in very different ways. But it doesn't really matter how it happens. It happens. Can we learn to be a little less critical of the spenders? I mean, this is easy pickings, isn't it? It's so obvious that they have money problems. But what about the people who are so quick to point that out? Their devotion to mammon is hardly ever identified, and when it is, in fact, it's often celebrated. They've done very well for themselves. They're smart, industrious, complimented on all of their success, and rightfully so. But they're fellow hostages. We all are. George Buttrick, who was a pastor for many years ago in New York City, identified this very point when he said, any pastor can visit a parishioner who has just received news that she has an illness, or has just lost his job, or whose child has flunked out of school. But it takes a very special pastor to visit that person who has just been promoted at the bank, or the person whose child has just been accepted at Harvard University. The skillful pastor knows the spiritual peril that lies in what the world considers good news, health, or success. And so pastoral counsel is more than merely tending the wounded, lifting up the brokenhearted. It's a matter of teaching, guiding, and admonishing the well and the well-fixed, the satisfied and the content. Well, what are we to do with all of this, my fellow hostages? Well, the only solution is to worship God, not mammon. Sounds so simple. How do we do that? How do we make God our treasure, the only one that our heart is set upon? How do we do that? Well, it all comes down to a way of seeing. Isn't it interesting that when Jesus is talking about rival gods, two masters, two kinds of treasures, that he also all of a sudden begins talking about the eyes, having healthy eyes? It seems like it doesn't fit. I mean, you'd think that the last verse would fit as a great concluding verse. You could just leave out those two verses that talk about healthy and unhealthy eyes. But there's a reason why those words are included. They do fit. You see, Jesus is setting up contrasts here. Two kinds of masters, two kinds of treasures, and two kinds of eyes. Eyes that are healthy and eyes that are not healthy. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Now, what do the eyes have to do with this contrast between God and mammon? This, the setting up of contrasts. Everything in life is based on a way of seeing, not just sight. Jesus isn't talking about 20/20 vision, not healthy eyes in the physical sense. He's talking about not sight, but insight. Not just what you see, but how you see it. It actually fits very well with this contrast of treasures and masters, God and mammon as rival priorities, because the way we view money is directly connected to the way we view everything. A worldview, how we see everything. Now, the word translated as healthy is interesting. The King James Version has it rendered as single, which is actually a better translation. That is literally what this word means, single. It's a strange, only twice in the New Testament, here and also in Luke's version of these words, do we find this Greek word. It literally means single. It's better than healthy. It's a little awkward, but it refers to having a single focus, one priority, one commitment. It's exactly what Jesus goes on to talk about in the verses that followed what we read this morning, where Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God. Don't worry. All of the things you worry about will be given to you. Seek first the kingdom, and all those things will be given to you. A single eye with one focus. It's exactly as C.S. Lewis puts it when he said, I believe in the sun, not because I see the sun. Nobody can see the sun. If you look at it, you'll be blind. But I believe in the sun, not because I can look at it, but because by its light, I see everything. That's a single vision. A healthy eye. And the point Jesus is making here is that if your vision is not fixed on God, if your heart is not set on God, the way you look at the world will be darkened, not full of light. If God is not your treasure, your worldview is a dark one. And in fact, the word for unhealthy, when Jesus refers to eyes that are unhealthy, literally means evil. Again, the King James Version renders it that way. We sometimes talk about the evil eye, giving someone an evil eye. What does that mean? Well, again, it's a way of seeing. And later in the book of Matthew, we have an example, a case study of what it means to look at the world with an evil eye. You remember the parable that Jesus spoke, recorded in chapter 20, the parable about the workers in the vineyard, people who are hired at different stages of the day. And at the end of the day, everyone is paid exactly the same. The ones who slaved for the whole day and the ones who were just there for an hour, they get the full day's wage. And the ones who worked all day are outraged. It's not fair. Even though the master said, I will pay you that, and they got exactly what they deserved, it wasn't fair that those who barely showed up at quitting time got what they did. And what does the master say to those who are outraged by this? Are you envious because I'm generous? Literally, is your eye evil because I'm generous? You see, their worldview was full of darkness. Their eye was evil in this spiritual sense. That master was a scoundrel, not fair at all. And these other workers, they didn't deserve what they got. See how an evil eye looks at the world in a dark way, in a negative way. That's an unhealthy way to look at things. It's an unhealthy way to live. A single eye is focused purely on God. No other God, not mammon, not anything else. A single eye sees the world in such a way where God truly is the one that the heart is set upon, the treasure. We all struggle with this. But it's part of what going to church week after week after week encourages and makes happen in our lives. We acknowledge how we mess up, how we don't serve God and God alone. Our priorities get all jumbled up. But when we worship, we sing again, you alone are the one that I seek. My only treasure, I surrender all. We can't live that out, not perfectly. But God is honored by the desire that we express in those beautiful songs. Now, I want to just wrap this up by bringing it to the cross. I want it to be something that inspires us to have that renewed sense of that single healthy vision, the treasure. You see, the only way we can look at God that way is because He has primarily and eternally looked at us that way. The single pure eye of God sees you as a treasure. In spite of who you are, in spite of what you've done, even if you're someone who shows up just before quitting time and hardly gets to work, if you're the thief on the cross who in his dying breath prays for forgiveness, we're all equal recipients of God's grace and generous love. He sees you as a treasure. And when you see God seeing you that way, suddenly your sense of status and security is brought into a sharp and good focus. It's not about mammon or any other rival god. It's about what God alone can provide. Status, a beloved child of God. Security, loved now and always. Only God can love like that. Only God can provide that kind of status and security. So you begin to realize that what Jesus is talking about when He refers to a single eye and pure, complete devotion is the way He sees you. Which is why He came to this broken world, so that we could experience that love. It's why He went to the cross, to die for us. It's like that song we sing once in a while in church. The song that refers to the deep love of the Father, how deep the Father's love for us. It talks about Jesus on the cross, all of the agony, all of the brokenness. He did it to make a wreck His treasure. You are a treasure in the eyes of God. And if you know that, if you absorb the beauty and the power of that, you begin to see with a healthy eye, a single eye, with God alone as your treasure. You know, I was reminded of this beautifully in a song that I heard the other day. I think you know enough about me by now to know that I'm very eclectic in my musical tastes. I'm all over the channel when it comes to listening to music. I'm not listening to E Street Radio as much anymore. Bruce and I are kind of at a rough patch. He postponed his concert for November 16. He's not doing well, so I mean, okay, you give him a lot of grace there. And it's not canceled, it's postponed. It's going to happen sometime in 2024, so I'm still there. The journey is just taking yet another twist in the road, and it's a bit longer, but it'll be okay. But anyway, so I'm listening to Outlaw Country the other day. Channel 56 on Sirius XM. I like that channel. I'm becoming quite fond of it, actually. And I heard a song I'd never heard before. It's called Ugly Houses, written by a young country singer named Hannah Dasher. Google that later today. Hannah Dasher, Ugly Houses. Google that or go on YouTube and find it. It's a lovely song, and it's got a great message. Ugly Houses. As she talked about that song in an interview recently, she referred to how real estate where she lives in the American South is just booming, like it is everywhere, around here as well. And there's a bunch of real estate signs that are up that say, "We buy ugly houses." And I thought, you know what? I'm kind of an ugly house. I wonder if God's in the real estate business. And in the video for the song, you see a small rundown house, and you see Hannah Dasher planting a "for sale by owner" sign in the front yard. And the camera goes inside the house, and she sings as she cleans this rundown house, scrubbing the cupboards, throwing out all kinds of clutter and junk that's accumulated over the years. She sweeps the garage clean. She goes outside and picks out the weeds. And midway through the song, we see a man driving a car. You get the sense he's looking for a specific address. And the video alternates between Hannah's cleaning inside the house and the man driving outside. And at the end of the song, we see this man slow down in front of the house. He looks at the phone number on the "for sale" sign. He calls it. And the video ends with Hannah going out, taking out that "for sale" sign. The man bought it. Now, I'm not going to give it away. If you go on YouTube and see it, you'll see a lovely and powerful message there. If you don't have access to the internet or YouTube, then talk to me at coffee. I'll let you know how that video, how that song ends, and the great message that it has. But here are just some of the lyrics for that song. I'm a fixer-upper. Need a lot of repairs. Kind of run down and out thing. There's stuff strewn everywhere. If you looked in my windows, you'd probably want to leave and think, who would want to live in me? I ain't no fancy castle. I got too much junk inside, but if you buy ugly houses, Lord, I'm taking down my "for sale" sign. I fight with the devil and the promises he makes, and I tend to keep on doing things I really need to change. But if you still see potential, I'm handing you the keys. Lord, come and live in me. He does. In all of the ugly houses, all of the people held hostage, and to experience that ongoing, relentless fight with the devil, hand him the keys to your ugly house. He'll buy it. He'll move inside and give us a single vision. A pure heart that seeks God alone, that has God as our ultimate treasure. All of this is true because he buys ugly houses. He moves inside. It changes everything. It's a way of looking at the world that we get that's not full of darkness. No, not at all. It's full of light. God's light. I want to invite the music team up as we celebrate the message of that song and the message of the gospel. As we sing about what the Lord has done in me. And I hope that this is your song, that as you hear these words and sing this song, you really are singing how you as a hostage have been set free, how you as an ugly house have been bought, how God's moved in. And the result of that is you have a treasure and a master. Your heart's set on God. Nothing can ever compare with that.
Let the weak say I am strong. Let the poor say I am rich. Let the blind say I can see. It's what the Lord has will rise from waters deep into the Savior's